Ladies and gentlemen, this is what we call music.
Hey guys, Jared here, and if you didn't get the chance to watch the whole Apple Developer Conference today, here's a recap. First off, you're brought in with Tim Cook and James Corden doing carpool karaoke together. Home Alabama! Then we get into the real Apple announcements. So first off is Apple Music. So with Apple Music, not too many changes are happening, but over the past year or so, they've been doing many improvements, and basically they just wanted to update us on exactly how that was going. So they keep improving Apple Music overall. The only thing that they really stressed that will be happening with Apple Music is in 2 weeks, they'll be having a London live event going on, and you can stream that inside of Apple Music. Either way, any improvement to that is welcome. And then kind of going away from Apple a little bit, we get into Nintendo. Yep, that's right. Mario will now be coming to the App Store. Now, it's not Super Mario Bros., but it is their own version called Super Mario Run, in which you can play the game with one hand is what they were stressing. It's pretty much like Super Mario Bros., but it is supposed to be a one-handed game in which you can run, pick up coins, fight Chupas, all that good stuff. And that will be released later this year. They said before the holidays, so later this year. And if you want to go to the App Store right now, you can actually hit notify, and it'll notify you when it's out. Then backing away from Nintendo for just a little bit, we talk about iWork, in the which Apple is going to be adding real-time collaboration between Numbers, Pages, and Keynote. So if you work on a Keynote with a team of 5 and you want to do that for school, you can all do that on your own separate computers and just work together on that project. It's kind of like Google Docs, but now you can use it with Pages, Keynote, and Numbers. It's a pretty cool and welcome addition. Then we get into the products. So we first start talking about WatchOS 3 and the improvements in both performance and also the design of it. Then, strangely enough, we go back into Nintendo, in which you talk about a Pokemon Go Apple Watch app. So if you play Pokemon Go still, there you go. And then we jump into the actual Apple Watch, which they will be calling Apple Watch Series 2, and they renamed the first one Apple Watch Series 1. And I think they called it Apple Watch Series 1 and Series 2 for the reason that the Apple Watch Series 1 is still being sold. And the Series 2 actually isn't that big of an upgrade of that, but it is another series of Apple Watch that you can buy. So with Apple Watch Series 2, one of the things that they stressed a lot was that it was now waterproof up to 50 meters. So if you're swimming, no matter how nerve-wracking that would actually be, you can go ahead and swim with your Apple Watch on, and it'll actually measure how much you swim according to your laps and all that. And then as for the performance of the Apple Watch Series 2, it now comes with a dual-core processor, which Apple states that it'll give 50% better performance overall with the Apple Watch over the previous one, which I think is a very welcome thing because with the previous Apple Watch I did notice a lot of lag going on, so I hope this solves that issue. As well as you also get a new GPU with the Apple Watch Series 2, which Apple again states that will give it 2 times better performance in graphics overall. So that'll make it so everything can run at 60 frames per second as they stated. And then one last improvement of the Apple Watch is now you have a brighter screen, so you can see it a little bit better outdoors. I did notice with the first Apple Watch that it was very hard to see in glare, so hopefully that solves that issue as well. And they said that their new screen is now at 1,000 nits.
1 nit is approximately the light emitted by a common candle. Therefore, 1,000 nits equals 1,000 candles worth of brightness,
which is the brightest screen that Apple's ever done, so this is going to be great. And then also there was an improvement on the Apple Watch Series 1, so now they sell that one with the new dual-core processor, so that means you'll get better performance. And then lastly with the Apple Watch, they now added built-in GPS into the Apple Watch, which as a developer I'm very happy about because now I can program an app for the Apple Watch, which is something that was actually stressed in WatchOS 2 and 3, that you can have standalone apps inside of the Apple Watch, so that just furthers that vision. And then you think that's it for the Apple Watch, but then Nike actually comes onto stage and they present their own version of the Apple Watch in which it's just a different design overall. It has a different kind of watch space. It also comes with some Nike fitness improvements and also a way to communicate with other people that are using that watch, and it's supposed to motivate you to go running and stuff like that. Overall, I think it was a good improvement over the Apple Watch. I wish they maybe have made it a little bit thinner. They didn't talk about battery life, so I don't assume that it's any different. I hope they improve that later on. But overall, the Apple Watch Series 2 will start at $369, and the Apple Watch Series 1 will start at $269. Then we are brought into the iPhone, which first off, they talk about iOS 10 and go over some of the features. We actually talked about most of those features in iOS 10 back in the last WWDC, but Very good improvements to iOS 10. I don't know how I exactly feel about the new graphics design with the notifications and all that, but I'm going to have to test iOS 10 on my own iPhone before I give any further feelings about it. Then also with the iPhone, they announced that they have sold 1 billion iPhones, which is a crazy amount of iPhones, but it also makes me as a developer very happy. Then we are brought into the actual iPhone 7, which is the best iPhone that Apple has ever created. Which I must say, I should hope so. So we are brought into a list of the new features that are going to be coming with the iPhone 7. First off, the design. So overall, the design looks very similar to that of the iPhone 6s and iPhone 7. The only thing that really looks different to me is the camera bump is a little bit more seamless as it's built into the aluminum body of the iPhone. And that's actually for a very important reason that we'll talk about later on. And then also, as everyone has announced already, there is no headphone jack. So yes, as Apple said, they have removed the headphone jack so that they can make improvements with other fields inside of the iPhone. For instance, the home button. Now the home button is going to take the exact same thing that they did with the MacBook trackpad and not actually be a clickable button. It's now going to be a haptic feedback that comes back when you click on the button. And that allows for some other features such as messages and other things to come through on that home button, which is a welcome addition. But also with them removing the headphone jack, that means the Lightning port is now going to be your main place for audio playback. Unless of course you use Bluetooth headphones, then you can use that as well. So now if you buy the iPhone 7, it's actually going to come with a pair of EarPods that have a Lightning port on the end of it. So you can actually just plug that right into your Lightning port and actually listen to the audio from the Lightning port. Now if you have any other headphones that you would like to use, Apple is also including in the box a dongle that'll transfer from the Lightning port to a normal headphone jack, which I think is a great thing that Apple just included that dongle right in the box. And then also with the iPhone, there is a new stereo speaker system on the iPhone. So if you're just listening from the iPhone, you get pretty good sound out of it now. Rather than having to cup your hand around the speaker now, you'll have stereo speakers coming at you, which is good. And now also in terms of design, it now comes with 2 new colors, black and jet black, in which jet black is just a glossy version of black. I like the look of black, but I'm not too sure how I like the look of jet black, as I'm just not a huge glossy fan. And then also inside of the iPhone, there's been a few changes as well. First off, it is now water and dust resistant IP67 certified, which means that it's good up to 1 meter in water. So if you drop it in the toilet or if you're cleaning dishes and you drop it in the water, you should be good. Then we get into what I think is the most major update of the iPhone, which is the camera. So first off, on the iPhone 7, you have an all-new 12 megapixel sensor with optical image stabilization. And you also get an f1.8 aperture, which is great. You also get a high-speed sensor, quad LED true tone flash, a wide color gamut. Essentially what all this is going to do is give you better, crisper, clearer images overall. Especially in the low light performance, in which the f1.8 aperture is going to capture more light. And then also you have the optical image stabilizer, which will allow you to open up the shutter for a little bit longer and again, let some more light in. And also if you're shooting sports or if you don't have a steady hand, it'll really help out with blur so you don't get such blurry images when you're moving the camera. It'll now be a little bit crisper and clearer. And then one really cool thing that I'm happy about is the wide color gamut. So this means that you are now able to take raw photos with the camera. And this is perfect for us developers especially, because now we can manipulate that photo in ways that we haven't been able to before. So Instagram actually came on stage and they showed that you are able to take that raw photo and add some vividness to all the colors. And then they also showed that you're able to actually use that live photo that's coming in as a boomerang, which is really cool. Then we get into the iPhone 7 Plus. So with this, the camera hasn't changed at all from the iPhone 7, but now we have 2 cameras, in which this second camera is a telephoto camera. So what this means, if you want to zoom in closer on a subject, instead of actually just digitally zooming into the image, you can now hit 1 times, then go 2 times, and that'll switch over to the telephoto lens, and you'll have crisp, clear images from that telephoto lens, as it is the same exact sensor and everything from the first camera. A very welcome update. And also what this allows you to do is just digitally zoom a little bit closer into the image, and you'll be able to see the image a little bit better as well. Now another feature that's only going to be available on the iPhone 7 Plus is the depth effect. Now I'm a little bit skeptical about this because I've seen it done on other phones such as the HTC One M8 and it wasn't that well done, so I'm hoping Apple pulls through with this, as I think it's a really cool option. So essentially what this is, with like higher end cameras such as a DSLR, you can create a shallow depth of field by the f aperture that's going through, and that creates a background blur of the person. But with smartphone cameras, it's really hard to actually create that shallow depth of field because of the sensor size. So what Apple's hoping to do, and I hope they pull through with it, is create a shallow depth of field digitally. And now I've seen this done before on the HTC One M8, as I said, and that wasn't well executed as it actually left some fragmentation. It wasn't completely done properly. But what Apple hopes to do is they have those two cameras, and essentially one's going to be able to measure the distance, and then one's going to take a photo. And they're going to match up and see if the person's there. So this will only work on certain subjects, but it is a cool option nonetheless. And one really cool thing about it is you're able to actually see that shallow depth of field being applied digitally real time inside of the camera. Again, I hope Apple pulls through and actually executed it as great as they said they did. Now, this isn't something that'll be available as soon as you buy the smartphone. This is coming as an update later in this year. But either way, it's very cool. Then another feature on the iPhone that's being added is a new display. Now, the display resolution has not changed whatsoever, which I was hoping they would change a little bit because I'm starting to notice pixels, especially when you're going from a 1440p phone to this phone. You can definitely tell the difference between a 1440p phone and the Apple screen. So I'm hoping they update that in the next model of the iPhone. For this update though, the new screen is just basically it's 25% brighter than the iPhone 6s, so that means you'll be able to see it outdoors a little bit better. Then the next thing, going back to audio, is the wireless AirPods that they're coming out with. Now I will say they look a little bit funny, like how they stick out your ears a little bit longer than just fitting in your ear canal. But essentially with the Bluetooth AirPods, Apple is trying to improve the Bluetooth connectivity of them. So once these features are added inside of these AirPods, that means third-party sources will be able to take advantage of those as well, and that just improves the industry overall. So I'm happy to see that. I don't know how good the AirPods sound, but they are selling for $169, so they better sound good, especially when you have amazing competitors such as Jaybird. And one feature that they have inside of the AirPods that I'm hoping they bring to other third-party devices is automatic pairing, which is really cool because then you can just take your AirPods and they just pair automatically with your iPhone rather than having to set up via Bluetooth. It just automatically set up, and I hope they bring that to other third-party things as well. But for now, it just shows that Apple, because they own their own ecosystem, how they're able to work with all this stuff, and it's very cool. Then we get back into the iPhone and talk about the performance. So Apple has created the new A10 Fusion processor, and essentially what this is going to do is it's going to make your gaming a lot better. And what they boast at the conference is that it's going to offer console-like gaming. Not too sure about that, but the game that they did show looks very promising, and that's always great to hear, especially if you're a game developer. Then you can just make your games as good as possible. And then as for the battery life of the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus, it sounds like they're going to get 2 more hours of battery life compared to the iPhone 6s and 6s Plus. So that is awesome. Any improvement in the battery life department is always welcome. I'm hoping that they put a lot more focus on that in the future. Then as for the price of the iPhone 7 is coming in at $649, and then the price of the iPhone 7 Plus is coming in at $769. Then also the base iPhone storage starts now at 32 gigabytes rather than 16, which a little bit late, but I'm glad they finally did it. So the storage models are now going to be 32, 128, and 256 gigabytes, which is a lot of storage. And the iPhones will start shipping September 16th. Either way, there you have it. There is the recap of the September 7th iPhone event. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to hit that like button down below. And if you want to see more videos like this from me in the future, be sure to subscribe. Either way, have a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.